Hello, sports fan, and welcome to Packs for Breakfast 2023 draft coverage. We're a couple years too late for this, but we're going to talk about some guys that were drafted in the 2023 draft, see what their impact has been a couple of years later. Yes, yesterday we did three quarterbacks, one of which might have an impact. Another one that's starting to have an impact, and one of them that he's done. He's just not going to have any impact anymore because his team is going to choose another quarterback with the first pick in this draft in 2025. Now, we opened up a pack of cards that was basically about draft. It was an NFL draft pack of cards from 2023. Featured a lot of 2023 guys. Also showed some, like you could get a Peyton Manning card, Barry Sanders, some legendary players still in their college uniform. So it was pretty cool to look at. But we're going to talk about these three gentlemen right here. One of these guys doesn't look like he's doing very well. Another one right now is pretty okay. He looks like he'll have a solid career. And the other one, he could be the classic number 2 wide receiver where the number one wide receiver is so great that he just gets a lot of catches and whatnot. But let's start with the guy that's the less of the wow factor, and that's Myles Murphy. Myles Murphy was actually taken in the first round. He was a 28th pick overall. He hasn't done much. He really hasn't. He was taken by the Cincinnati Bengals. He's had 40 tackles so far in his career with 3 sacks. He's played 30 of the 34 games he was eligible for. He's had no starts, which for a defensive lineman, no big deal. They rotate in defensive linemen all the time. So sometimes you're not going to be the starter, but you'll still rotate in and get a good 50% of the snaps. This guy does not look like he's going to be that guy. In 2024, he had no sacks, so he regressed. He's only played 658 defensive snaps, roughly 35%, and he's played on some special teams. He has not been spectacular. He has not been, he's 2 years into his career, and so far he doesn't look like he's really worth a first round pick. He'll have 2 more years to prove himself, and then, of course, Cincinnati will decide on whether or not they want to take him up on that 5th year option. Right now, I think Cincinnati would be more than happy to sit there and go, we're not giving you a 5th year at big money. Now we'll go to Zach Charbonnet, or however you want to pronounce that. Zach Charbonnet he's done pretty well, especially seeing as he's the backup to Kenneth Walker in Seattle. So for being the backup to Kenneth Walker, the good thing about that is Kenneth Walker is kind of injury prone, so you're going to get to play. Zach Charbonnet is averaging about 4.2 yards per carry. So he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's had 1,031 yards and 9 rushing touchdowns. He's also had 75 catches for 549 yards. He's played in 33 games and he's had 8 starts. He was the 52nd pick in the 2nd round. So he's definitely played, I think, above his draft status, which is good. His 2nd round pick, you're not really especially when you already have Kenneth Walker, you're not really expecting your 2nd round running back. And you almost wonder a little bit, why would you take a running back in the 2nd round when you have Kenneth Walker? Well, because Kenneth Walker gets hurt. So having a guy like, Charbonnet or whatever would be a sound pickup. And I think Seattle's done pretty well for themselves. To me, the numbers he's put up are well deserving of a 2nd round pick. He's been serviceable, and like I said, you get 4.2 yards a carry. He can catch the ball. He's averaging about 37 catches a season, so he's multi-talented, and that's good for a running back. Especially, he's a contributor. You love to see it. Now we're going to go to Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison is He was taken in the first round with the 23rd pick by the Minnesota Vikings. Jordan Addison's actually had a pretty good go of it. In 2 years, he's had 133 catches, 1,786 yards with 19 receiving touchdowns. He's played in 32 games and he has started 29 of them. He started all of the games in year 2 in 2024. But Jordan Addison raises a question. He is playing very well, but on the other side of him is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL in Justin Jefferson. Is Jordan Addison a really good number 2 wide receiver, or is he only a really good numbers guy being a number 2 wide receiver because Jefferson gets all the attention on the other side? That is to say that if Jordan Addison played on a team where he was the number 1, would he still put up these kind of numbers? That's the question. That's the Brandon Ayuk question. That's the Alvin Harper question. That's the, who else has been a number 2 that has gone somewhere else that they didn't really do much. But that's kind of the idea of this. If he wasn't there, the T. Higgins, even asking the question, would T. Higgins be a great wide receiver if he was the number 1 instead of being the number 2 with Jamar Chase? T. Higgins had probably a little bit of time without Jamar. I think T. Higgins played a year or 2 longer when he had Boyd there. But you still have to wonder. Jordan Addison could be a guy that if he keeps up these kind of numbers, they're going to pick up his 5th-year option, and that would cost a lot of money. But is he worth it? Or he's going to start saying, I want my money, like Brandon Ayuk wanted his money. Then you pay him a lot of money and you realize, maybe without Justin Jefferson, you're not so good. To me, a guy like Jordan Addison, I'd probably trade him in year 4 because that's when I think you'll have his most value. You trade him while everybody thinks he's really good, and you probably can fool somebody in the NFL into taking him off your hands and giving you maybe even a 1st-round pick for him. And then you kind of, unload him onto somebody else, and then he turns out to be a mediocre wide receiver as a number 1 on another team. Or you can pay him a lot of money, which is probably what he would want in about 2 years. And then you have Justin Jefferson making a ton of money, Jordan Addison making a ton of money, and, potentially you could end up with J.J. McCarthy wanting a ton of money at some point if he takes the number 1 spot in Minnesota and, shows great improvement, because, of course, we don't know what J.J. McCarthy's going to do yet. But there's the potential there. You could have a lot of money locked up into 3 players on your offensive side of the ball, like Cincinnati is doing with T. Higgins, with Jamar Chase, and with Joe Burrow. I don't think it's a winning formula. I really don't. Having too much money tied up on one side of the ball and no depth. It's what's leading, Cincinnati may trade, they may trade, Hickerson or Hendrick, I think his name's Hickerson, I can't remember. But the defensive lineman that they have that's really good, they may trade him away because they can't afford to pay the guy. So, I think it's Henderson. But it's still one of those things where, you put so much money in one spot. Now you lose over here. Now your defensive side, which is already weak, is going to get weaker because you got to trade your star defensive lineman because you paid all your offensive weapons. So now you have to get into shootouts with everybody because the defense can't stop anybody. With all that kind of being said, Myles Murphy might be available. Oh, wait, that's right. He's a Bengal too. So you better hope that Myles Murphy can step up and maybe take his place. I doubt it, though, because what I've seen so far of Myles Murphy is he's not going to be a star 2 years in, and he's just not there. So these are the 3 guys. To me, you've got a guy that's probably going to get a big contract in the future because he plays on the other side of a great wide receiver. You've got Carbonet, who's a serviceable probably good running back, who it's good to have when you got a guy like an injury-prone Kenneth Walker. And then you got Myles Murphy, first-round pick that kind of looks a little bit on the disappointing side. So tomorrow, I think I'm going to do something. I think I might do my first round for the NFL draft. Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to put that all together. This year's NFL draft seems very tricky because the Shedeur Sanders thing is very tricky to predict where he's going to go. And there could be a lot of trades in this first round. There could be a lot of movement. So we'll see. I've got some more of these cards, but some of these other rookies that I've got, these other cards, I mean, these were like the three most exciting after the quarterbacks that we had. So, I mean, I got another wide receiver that's okay, but I might just do a mock first round draft because you know what? Everybody else does too. And that's All-Star for now.